Hello and welcome to Inside Line. I'm Stephen Otley and I'm joined this week by Sam Hall. Now this week we'll take a look at the future of fast forwards, the all-new Mazda 3 and a record-setting Mercedes. But first, our internet burnout. And this week's video features a motorcyclist willing to risk his life to save a cup. As you can see, the rider spots a mug on the bumper of this SUV. But instead of letting it fall, he grabs it and hands it back to the driver. Now Sam, you ride motorbikes. Is this guy brave or crazy?
I do love my bikes, but I think he's probably a bit of both. I can't say I've ever attempted anything like this, and I mean, let alone for a coffee cup. And then, you know, been nice enough to give it back to the woman driving the car, so everyone's happy.
What a man does for a mug. Now the big news this week has centred around Ford. Now, although unconfirmed, well-placed sources have told Drive that Ford will shut down its performance brand FPV by next year. But to keep fans of Quick Fords happy, it looks set to revive the XR8 badge and reintroduce the Mustang to Australia. It's a bit of mixed news there, isn't there, Sam?
It is, Steve. The writing's been on the wall ever since Ford announced earlier this year that it will cease manufacturing in 2016. Ford actually took full control of FPV in December last year, so I mean, you can look into it how do you like, but I think it's probably been a consideration they've had for some time now.
FPV will sort of live on, won't they? With this revived XR8, it's going to have the same 5-litre supercharged 335 kilowatt V8, which is pretty good, and the Brembo brakes and the sports suspension, so that's positive. And you know, the reintroduction of Mustangs.
Yeah, I think for the XR8, I mean, you're still getting a lot of the FPV kit, you know, in a standard XR8, which we haven't seen actually in the Australian market for a couple of years now. So it's nice to have that back. It's a glimpse of good news. And with the Mustang, it's good to see that return again as well, and at affordable price. I mean, we saw it in Australia before. They did a limited run between 2001 and 2003, but the car was about 100 grand.
Yeah. But this one's going to be, we're going to get a turbocharged V6 and a V8, and they're both going to be around between $40,000 and then $50,000. So much more competitive, isn't it? It
is, and it'll be the new model that actually comes out next year, not the current model. So be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, well, some good news for Ford fans. Now, from fast and large cars, we'll switch to small cars and the new Mazda 3. The Japanese brand gave journalists their first chance to drive the new car in Los Angeles last week. Now, it's all new car in every respect. Now, what are your thoughts, Sam?
I think they've kicked the goal there, definitely. They've obviously borrowed the design cues from the Mazda 6 and the CX-5, so it'll be interesting to see what it's like in real life. But you're probably a better person to judge than me. You drove the thing. Yeah,
I was lucky enough to go to LA and have a steer, and I've got to say it's pretty impressive. You know, two of the big criticisms of the current car have been fuel consumption and a bit of refinement, a bit of cabin noise, and they've improved both areas. I mean, fuel consumption significantly so still a fun car to drive, even though underneath it's all new. It's got new engines, new gearbox, the chassis itself is new, because since they split up with Ford, they basically had to start from scratch. It's going to have the ability to read your text messages and emails and even your Facebook and Twitter updates, so, and then you can actually respond to them with, you know, voice control. So, you know, it's ticking a lot of boxes, so we'll find out if it's going to be a bestseller next year. Now finally this week, a 1954 Mercedes-Benz Formula One car has set a new world record price for a car sold at auction. The car, driven by the late 5-time world champion Juan Manuel Fangio, sold for more than $32 million on the weekend. Now what do you reckon, Sam? Would you have paid that much?
It's a fair bit to pay. I don't think I'd be able to afford it on my modest wage, but I mean, obviously it's, you know, he was a 5-time world champion and the car has a lot of history, so someone out there obviously thinks it's worth the money. Yeah,
this thing is in amazing condition because it's basically in how it was 50 odd years ago, you know, nearly 60 years ago when it finished racing. It's, you know, unrestored, unchanged, you know, I guess gives it so much value. But it seems you've done a bit of research into these record-setting cars, and it seems like old race cars are the things to have.
Yeah, definitely. It's actually interesting. I had a look at the top 5 highest selling cars at auction, and number 2 and 3 were both former Ferrari race cars. So I guess it goes to show that if a car has a history in racing and, you know, there weren't too many produced, that, you know, it's going to retain its value and actually increase its value.
Yeah, well, unfortunately not a problem for you and I. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. As always, visit drive.com.au for all your latest motoring news, reviews and videos.